If you're someone just looking to have a good time with a show or movie, well, don't. Welcome to the Red Room, where we talk and sometimes rant about things. Gone are the days when artistry took precedence over the message. Gone are the days when an audience could expect to come to their own conclusions about a story rather than having the message shoved down their throat. The climate of entertainment has changed so much in such a short time, and originality is no longer the goal. Everything's laced with the message. And what is that message, you ask? For minorities, namely black people, it's that we're all beleaguered, downtrodden, and in desperate need to be saved. We all come from broken homes, we're all ruined, and we all can blame it on everyone else around us. Never mind all the black excellence that preceded us. This is our story, and it always will be. Apparently. For women, it's that we can do no wrong and are held back by the weak, incorrigible men around us. To be a strong woman now means to never ask a man for help. We don't need men. We never needed men. Never mind all the fathers, husbands, grandfathers, brothers, cousins, and uncles of the world. For men, it's that they're incompetent and inherently misogynistic and need to get taken down a peg by the strong women of the world, if only because of what's between their legs. Never mind the actual predators of the world. Let's just persecute and ridicule all men. That'll get them on our side. And on it goes. The common denominator between all these is that they promote separation and resentment under the guise of empowerment and progress. Hollywood has become this huge preach machine that no longer has faith in its audience. No, now they're here to teach us the ways of the world and show us how violent, oppressed, misguided, and underprivileged we are. As if they know. Hollywood wouldn't be Hollywood without our eyes, ears, and adoration. There's nothing wrong with art that has a message. In fact, I think that's the best kind of art. But big cinema has been going about it all wrong. And why? Well, that's what's trending. It's the thing that's in. Pandering to groups of people who want to project their own insecurities and hang-ups onto the populace. And that's exactly what all this is, a projection. Most people right now don't like the state of so-called entertainment. Shows and movies and stories have suffered because of it, because the message has only produced more division, more misunderstanding, and more discontent among audiences. With almost every story charged with political overtones, you'll be hard-pressed to find a show that simply dares to be what it is and allow the audience to pass judgment. No, they want to get the jump on you and make sure you know what you're supposed to feel beforehand. Straight up BS. It's no secret that tensions in the black community have only risen in recent years. With all the recent tragedies and injustices, of course they have. These events need to be brought to light so that it's clear what is and isn't acceptable from the people meant to protect our communities, so that these extreme, despicable things never happen again. I know this to be true. At the same time, it is not helpful to perpetuate our black trauma in every single movie and every single show and every single piece of media. This is hardly a step up from the blaxploitation movies of the 70s and the shoot-'em-up gang flicks of the 90s. This only introduces more fear, more mistrust, while presenting no solutions. Hollywood has hopped on this bandwagon of thinking that if they put out the message that black people are in constant danger of being shot down, that they're somehow representing us. Police brutality, profiling, discrimination, yes, that's part of our story. That isn't all of it. We're so much more than victims of this country, yet that's all we're shown. This idea that no matter how high we climb the ladder, that no matter how much we achieve in life, we'll always be shackled by the pains of the past and live in fear of the future, it's extremely harmful. Yes, the issue of racism still exists and there's always room for improvement. I'm not saying we can't have that discussion, but don't let it be the only discussion. We know where we're at. Where are we headed? And another thing, I've already touched on this before, but the man-hating narrative of female empowerment has not brought men and women closer together. If anything, it's a mass castration dressed up as girl power and is put on the big screen for everyone to see whether they want to or not. The average woman doesn't like this. Yes, she doesn't want to be put down and humiliated by men, as she shouldn't, but she also doesn't feel the urge to put down and humiliate the men around her. And to suggest that we only feel strong when overtaking traditionally masculine roles is malicious. Ironically, it tells the audience that there's no value in femininity, that we have to cross the threshold and abandon all womanly qualities in order to have our place in the world. That being womanly is somehow disempowering and reinforces the patriarchy. That is not our story. That is not the so-called equality we seek, and that isn't empowerment in our eyes. But Hollywood would have you believe otherwise. I have some theories as to why, but that's a discussion for another video. It also stands that the average mature man doesn't get off on belittling the women around him. In fact, a civil conversation can easily clear up some misunderstandings. Most of the time. I'm not going to deny that there's plenty of real assholes out there, But to lump all men into one general category would be unwise, just as it would be for any group. This subtle derision and persecution of men in Hollywood film and media really only does one thing. It inflates the perception that a man is only good when he is subservient, weak, and afraid, and that all strength and integrity he has must be diminished in the presence of a woman. According to Hollywood, men can no longer provide, they can no longer defend, and they can't even think for themselves when a woman is on screen. Otherwise, it's pushing sexist ideals. In present day, they're either the enemy or the bumbling, stumbling sidekick. This is the narrative being pushed, and again, I have some theories as to why. Like I said before, most people don't like this. They don't like being preached to, and they don't like some out-of-touch entity telling them what they are and how they should feel about certain situations. Hollywood's current MO seems to be getting as many brownie points as possible, with as many marginalized groups as possible. The media machine capitalizes on the fact that a certain small percentage of the population currently holds sway over what the rest sees. This then perpetuates this narrative that the struggle never ends for certain groups of people, and that they have to be nasty and vindictive in order to feel empowered. The Western world is currently having a screaming match with itself, and it's quickly bled into all forms of expression. Strangers are policing other strangers' perspectives and opinions on the internet, taking most everything they say in bad faith. People assume the worst more and more, and Hollywood, with all their hubris, have decided that they will fan the flames in the name of some righteous cause. If you don't agree with every narrative being pushed, well, make room on your plate for some cancel pie. Hollywood, like most other entities, have become a mouthpiece for an agenda bent on perpetuating confusion and petty arguments. No longer is art art. There's always something the movie should inform you on, or some grievance that must come to light, as if people don't live in that world day to day. People can't just enjoy things for the sake of. Because like all things now, you have to walk away with an idea, the one they want you to adopt. And those who don't subscribe to the thinly veiled attempts at changing their mind, well, do you still have room for more cancel pie? And I think this is all by design. If you keep the masses bickering, no real solution can be made for the numerous problems of today. Instead, we assume the absolute worst about people, unwilling to consider the other side of the story. Some people think movies and film don't matter. Oh, they matter. They're a reflection of the times, a stamp in history that elucidates our core values, concerns, and hopes for the future. And if all we're shown is Group A butting heads with Group B across all platforms, well then, our outlook of the world is going to end up pretty bleak. These themes in our so-called storytelling don't open the floor for conversation. There's always an enemy, always a group, always another reason to get up in arms. But never any room for conversation, to let the other guy speak. Obviously, there are situations in life where reasoning with the other person or persons isn't an option. There are some psychos out there. But to throw all possibility out the window and pump out inaccurate generalizations of certain people, of course they're going to stay the enemy or victim, and of course there will be no resolution. Of course the bickering will continue, and of course our discussions will descend further into chaos and contrivances. He who controls the media controls the people's minds, after all. And all these little arguments we have amongst ourselves takes attention away from the question we should all be asking. Why are these things still issues in the first place? Is it because the average individual is predisposed to hatred, bigotry, and abuse? Or is it learned? Is it really human nature to fear, to subjugate, to discriminate? Or is someone benefiting from all this infighting? Uh-oh, starting to sound crazy again. Let me dial it back. Anywho, I said all this to say, Hollywood is not the shining star it once was. Hell, maybe it never was. Maybe the illusion is finally crumbling. And to that I say, let it crumble. We need to nurture progressive, truly progressive ideas. Ideas that will take us somewhere higher than we are now. Because at present, we still live in a world that only values the superficial. We are only POC, white, male, female, LGBT, straight, and at the end of the day, literally none of this matters. The only reason these narratives are being pushed so much in Hollywood is because we, the people, allow it. We, the people, are fully capable of controlling and steering the narrative to what truly matters, like, content of character? Being of a certain race, sexuality, or gender does create certain experiences. I'm not denying that. But for it to be implied that in this Western world, everything that happens or doesn't happen to us is solely because of these superficial qualities, that we can blame all our problems on someone else of another group, so far that line of thinking has gotten us nowhere. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Oh, and click the bell to stay notified for future videos. Stay safe, stay curious, and don't forget to take the leap.